As an Anglo-Catholic, one of the accusations that is tossed out towards us quite frequently is this idea that we are just crypto-papists or we are just LARPing Eastern Orthodox. And the unfortunate part about this accusation is that oftentimes that does seem to be the case. One of the things that I have seen, both online and also in conversation, is that there sometimes is an insecurity within Anglicans, within Anglo-Catholics, that causes them, in a real sense, to try to resonate with as much as the Eastern or Roman Latin tradition as possible so that they can feel as though they are Catholic. And this usually ends up, maybe inadvertently, but nonetheless, it does take place. They end up kind of denigrating their own tradition as though it's something to be ashamed of, and as though to be truly Catholic is to be Latin or Orthodox. Now, as an Anglo-Catholic who does believe that Rome and the East tend to have more truth than error, especially in relationship to a lot of the other Protestant denominations, I want to be very clear that we as Anglo-Catholics, we as Anglicans, should be very, very proud of our heritage. And it makes me sad when we seek to define ourselves at the expense of our beloved and beautiful and wonderful tradition and heritage. The English Church can be traced almost as far back as any of the other historic churches. And as we move through history, we can see its progression, we can see it grow as a church, we can see it enter into communion with Rome, we can see it fall out of communion with Rome, enter back into communion with Rome, and we see theology develop, we see theology change, we see reforms made, and all the while there is this unique English liturgical heritage. And we see this especially during the time of the Reformation. And for many Anglo-Catholics, the Reformation is a period of English history that they try to skirt past as quickly as they possibly can. And I think this is a mistake. I have publicly said, and so this is no surprise to anybody who knows me, I am not a fan of the Reformation. I don't think it is a time to be celebrated. I think it is a time to be grieved, for it marks a fracture and a schism of massive scale within the Western Church. That being said, the Reformation was a necessity. It had to happen. The abuses and the innovations that were taking place within the Western Church at the time called for reform. And so when the English Church brought much of this reform to fruition, it was a good thing. And unfortunately, Roman or Anglo-Catholics, they tend sometimes to have such great attraction to wanting to be approved by the Roman Catholics that they want to ignore all of these issues that had to be addressed and resolved. And if we look, really, truly, if we look closely at, say, Vatican II and the reforms that were implemented by Rome, most all of them were drawing from a lot of the English and other Protestant traditions. It was an acknowledgement on the part of Rome that we were right in many ways. As Anglicans, when we look at the Reformation, we can mourn, we can grieve, we can point out that schism is always something that is negative and bad, while at the same time being grateful for the beauty of our liturgical tradition that came out of that. The Book of Common Prayer is, without a doubt, next to the King James Version of the Bible, which is also an Anglican thing, the most beautiful English text ever penned. We have no reason to move away from that, no reason to denigrate that. It is a beautiful liturgical heritage. And Rome has acknowledged this with the introduction of the Ordinariate. The Eastern Orthodox have acknowledged this with some of their Western rites, the Liturgy of St. Tikhon, for example. we look at this and there is an acknowledgement that we possess a Catholic and beautiful tradition. Well, Jonah, that might be all well and good, but look at the 39 articles. Okay, here's another thing. The 39 articles, if they are understood in their historic context, if we understand what the reformers were going through, what they were seeing, and even some of the confusion surrounding the way in which language was being used, if we take all that into account and we read the articles, they are thoroughly Catholic. I am convinced of that. I have no qualms with the 39 articles of religion if we understand them correctly as situated in their particular historical context, and we recognize maybe where the reformers went a little bit too far in overreaction to certain things that have a Catholic form but were being abused at a particular time in history. Again, this is not something to be ashamed of. It is something to be valued as part of our liturgical heritage. The problem that I see that a lot of Reformed Anglicans have with Anglo-Catholics, and I think it's a valid concern, is that the Reformed Anglicans want to uphold our liturgical heritage with all their hearts. And honestly, God bless them for that. I think it's wonderful that they care so much about preserving the tradition. The problem that I, as an Anglo-Catholic, have with many of the Reformed Anglicans is the way in which they go about this is dispensing with nearly all the rest of church history in favor of only this very particular time in history, read through a very particular lens. But the heart that they have behind this, which is to maintain the beauty of the Anglican tradition, sign me up. I'm on board with that entirely. And so their critique against the Anglo-Catholics is, you guys say that you're Anglicans, but you seem so ashamed of your heritage. And this is a fair critique. Why are we so ashamed of our heritage? If we cannot fully embrace the Book of Common Prayer and the theology that comes along with it, why aren't we going to Rome or to the East? Especially when, with our lips, we give lip service to these traditions as though they are superior to our own. Listen, if you are an Anglican that is fully convinced that Roman Catholicism is a superior tradition, if you are an Anglican and you are convinced that Eastern Orthodoxy is a superior tradition, if you believe that these traditions are more faithful to the gospel, more faithful to the apostolic witness, more faithful to the scriptures, then by all means, go to those traditions. But if you are an Anglican and you are promoting yourself as an Anglican and saying, this is what I believe, then don't dispense with what it means to be an Anglican, which has historically been the Book of Common Prayer, the 39 articles, and the liturgy as it's practiced and made manifest within the English tradition. This is our heritage. And so as Anglo-Catholics, if we want really the Reformed Anglicans to see us as serious about our tradition and serious about our liturgy, then we need to demonstrate to them that we are proud of it. And there are a lot of Anglo-Catholics that do this. I'm not trying to say that none of them do it. But the pride sometimes seems to be more so in those things which we share in perfect commonality with Rome and the East than it does the unique aspects of our English heritage that make our expression of the Catholic faith so beautiful and so unique. And I know some people will say, well, Jonah, if you're really truly Catholic, you shouldn't be unique. I disagree with that. In terms of foundational, fundamental dogma, we should not have any differences with the historic church. And I think genuine Anglicanism that is conscious of both her formularies as well as the history of the church that came before her, the councils, the creeds, etc., is fully dogmatically Catholic. However, where I don't think there needs to be total and complete uniformity is in liturgical heritage, how that Catholic faith is worked out. And in the English Catholic Church, we have a unique heritage, a unique liturgy, a unique patrimony that comes through the blood, sweat, and tears of many bishops, priests, deacons, and lay people who have paved the way for the English tradition. And so as an Anglican, my cry in this video is for all those watching. I know many of you who watch me are frustrated with the state of Anglicanism. You're frustrated with the Reformed Anglicans that suggest this is the only way you can be truly Anglican is to be Reformed, and who want to embrace an Anglo-Catholicism. And the frustration that you guys have sometimes can manifest in an overstep into seeking to be either Roman Catholic or Eastern Orthodox to the exclusion of your tradition. And my cry to you is, you can be fully Catholic and fully proud to be an Anglican, fully proud of your heritage, fully proud to hold up the Book of Common Prayer and say, this is the benchmark of Christian orthodoxy. I believe that with all of my heart. Otherwise, I would not be an Anglican. And so the only thing that I would request of those who are Anglo-Catholics is to be proud of your Catholic tradition. Don't LARP as either Roman or Orthodox. Be an Anglican, authentically so, Catholically so. And allow that to be a witness to the authenticity of our Catholic tradition. Because even for a lot, the Reformed Anglicans, they have their perspective on Anglo-Catholics, but the outside world, the Roman Catholics and the Eastern Orthodox have their perspective as well. And their perspective is, how can a tradition be authentically Catholic when it's trying so hard to be us? And that is a fair critique. Why would we want so badly to be Roman Catholic or Eastern Orthodox if our tradition, as Anglicans, in the Book of Common Prayer, in our formularies, is authentically Catholic? So may we hold to the Catholic faith proudly. May we look to both our formularies, the Book of Common Prayer, and all of church history found in the 7 councils and the creeds. And may we honor all of those things as our heritage and hold it up as being the benchmark of orthodoxy, inviting those who want the fullness of the Catholic faith to enter into the English tradition. That's my video for today. I hope that we as Anglicans can be more proud of what we have, because it's very, very special. It's very beautiful. And I think the more that we do that, especially as Anglo-Catholics, the more comfortable and confident our orthodoxy will be in an apostatizing Western world. So with that, I pray that this was helpful, that it'll do some good, stir some good conversation. And with that, I will talk to you all next time.